Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Hudson Institute, joining us in person or online. We are streaming live as well. So my name is Laurynas. I'm a visiting fellow here at the Hudson Institute, and also I'm a professor at Vilnius University in Lithuania. Last year, at Vilnius NATO Summit in Lithuania, NATO leaders agreed on a new set of regional defense plans to guard against Russia and to deter Putin from another potential aggression. The accession of Finland and Sweden has already added two high-capable allies to NATO, making the deterrence even stronger. However, the implementation is the key. This July, NATO leaders will gather in Washington to assess the alliance progress in meeting its targets. Besides a special occasion and special celebration of 75th anniversary of NATO establishment, there's an urgent need to give an impulse to revive Western defense industry and rearmament. Today's discussion focuses on the current situation regarding the implementation of NATO's stronger deterrence posture and the challenges that lie ahead. It's my big pleasure to introduce Lithuania's Minister of Defense and also my good friend, Mr. Laurynas Kasčiūnas. Kasčiūnas was appointed Minister of Defense just last month after serving as chair of the Parliamentary Committee on National Security and Defense. And before that, he was the advisor to the Speaker of Lithuanian Parliament and headed the Eastern Europe Study Center, the best, I think, Lithuania's think tank. So please join and welcome Minister Kasčiūnas in a discussion with Peter Rau, Senior Fellow at the Hudson Institute and Director of the Center on Europe and Eurasia. Please welcome.
Thank you, Tomas. It's a delight to have you here in Washington with us at Hudson for a few months. Mr. Minister, it's always dangerous to get applause at the outset because we hope to get the same applause at the end of our conversation. I have no doubt that we will. As Tomas mentioned, you might be new to the job, but of course you're experienced in foreign relations. You also served as chair of the Defense Committee in the Seimas, the Lithuanian Parliament, since November 2020 before assuming your current post. And you earned your PhD writing on Ukraine at Vilnius University some years ago, which I think is particularly apt and interesting. But before we turn to Ukraine, which no doubt we will, perhaps I could start with an issue in the news. My colleague Dan Kochis here at Hudson Institute has a new piece out on electronic warfare in Northern Europe. And it's very apropos because yesterday the Financial Times, amongst others, reported that Finnair had to turn around 2 flights from Helsinki to Estonia's second city on account of GPS jamming, presumably by Russia. And that opens up the scope and the aperture to the entire field of electronic warfare, hybrid warfare measures of Russia and Northern Europe. On account of this incident, can you tell us a little bit about Russia's hybrid warfare approach in the Baltics and Northern Europe and how you see it as Minister of Defense of Lithuania?
So, Peter, thank you very much. Good morning, Thomas. Thank you, Ačiū. He was also my professor at Vilnius University. And of course, thank you for Hudson Institute. Yes, we already are on the agenda of these jamming problems, which probably comes from the Kaliningrad region. And it's a regional already problem challenge. Our Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis already, made an announcement of that. And of course, it's still a manageable problem. We can manage it, but anyway, it shows how Russia can act, especially in different areas. And then you ask about these hybrid things. Of course, it's a big discussions about possible hybrid scenarios against the Baltics, because when we talk about conventional scenarios, wars based on brigades, divisions, on conventional forces. So we have quite good intelligence. You have good intelligence. We also have good intelligence, and we work as a system. So indicator shows when Russia, or together with Belarus or alone, will try to gather and mobilize forces, conventional forces near our borders. So I think we will have early warning quite in a good shape here, as shown in Ukraine 3 months before. We already some intelligence already announced that the war will come, so it shows where we are strong here. So, but here we are talking about conventional scenarios. When we talk about these gray zone scenarios, hybrid, we call it hybrid. People in academical world do not agree. What does it mean, hybrid? Everything what is not conventional. So it's much more difficult to get the early warning. It's much more difficult to get the indicators of intelligence, what's happening. And for example, we had already, still having a little, but we had a hybrid, I would say, attack against Lithuania and the Baltics. Maybe you remember 2021 summer, when Lukashenko regime started the instrumentalized, weaponized migration process, when he organized the flights from Middle East to Minsk, to Belarusian capital, and then all these people were pushed to Lithuanian border. Just knowing what we should be, let them enter, and then create the internal tensions. I know the migration issue is a big internal tension also in the United States. So that's why he created such kind of problems, knowing that EU is very sensitive on migration, and we should react and to defend itself. And we reacted, I would say, quite strongly. We built the fence. It's not a wall, but fence. But also it was a part of the process. When we started the redirection policy, when the migrants were pushing, we just saying no, pushing them, redirecting them back, saying if you want to legal immigration, go to our embassy or to crossing points. So we managed the situation. We managed. But it was a hybrid thing. Who could be transformed into provocations, military incidents, and so on and so on. It doesn't happen. We managed, but anyway, it's like showing you what it's not only theory; it's already happening. I mean, so all the time is informational warfare. It's a difference, of course. What is a little bit problematic in our country, what quite big part of our society. And the polls shows, so opinion polls shows, especially after COVID, have so-called, I would say, leaning, most third of them, of society, leaning to this theories of, after COVID was like some of the theories. Conspiracy, exactly. Thank you very much. On conspiracy, it's not about the So it's not about what the world is not different types, different levels, but it's there are leaning towards conspirology, and it helps also for Russia to create in social bubbles and others, many conspirology theory, which can, also be part of hybrid kind of scenarios, and so on and so on. So it's a reality. It's a new reality. Not only the jamming, migration, but also informational provocations. We're attacking our historical monuments. We're trying to attack our history because history is a part of our identity. That's why we're trying to create this cultural wars inside of Lithuania and so on. So it's our reality, and we need to adapt.
A Hudson delegation traveled to Moldova and Ukraine in early March, and a senior Moldovan official put it rather pithily. They had just taken Russian state TV off the air, but they said Russian Telegram is the new Russian state TV because they were flooding the zone with disinformation. To your point about the hybrid immigration, the weaponizing of immigration toward Lithuania prior to the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Yeah. Since the invasion of Ukraine, there have been large refugee streams from Belarus and Russia to Lithuania as well. Yeah. That must pose a challenge because surely many of them are fleeing for benign reasons, but I can imagine Moscow and Minsk thinking of ways to introduce their own less than admirable actors, subversive elements into those streams. Is that something that's also in this category of unconventional tactics that worries Lithuania?
Oh, yeah. In 2021, August, when a revolution in Belarus started, but not succeeded, many Democrats, human rights activists flew from the country. And they, of course, got refugee status in Lithuania, in Poland, and so on. When, in 22, 23, we saw, especially when the war started, we saw that not only refugees are coming already. So we will be open for refugees and for political prisoners all the time. It's our duty, and we're going to be open for these people. But also we saw that economical migrants are coming already. But it's okay. Sometimes it's okay because we need some time. But then we felt that maybe it's already enough, or the process should be controlled. So we are talking about Belarusian and Russian citizens. So we introduced the law, temporary law. It started last year, May. Now we proceeded it for 1 year, so second year, on restriction for Belarus and Russian citizens. It's a different restrictions. For Russians, we cannot get the permission to live in Lithuania. They cannot get a permission to have job in Lithuania. We cannot. We have restriction on owning the ownership in Lithuania, and many criteria we were banned, temporarily banned. So we do not have the immigration from Russia. We stopped that. Because of your arguments, we do not have a fifth column in Lithuania. So I think it's effective and it works. Belarusian society is different. It's not Russia, but it's not Ukrainian. I mean, it's a different mode. It's a different identity. It's a different approaches in Lithuania, how to deal with them. But of course, there are some restrictions, but not so hard as for Russian citizens. So it's more screening, I would say, especially when you get the information that you, the Belarusian citizen which had the permission in Lithuania to live and to have a job, for example, have some history and bonds and ties with interior structures of Belarusian regime. You know, the regime in Belarus is totally controlling society. You know, so when you found this bounds, you cut it and permission get out. You know, so we are trying to control that kind of thing, and I think we are doing in good direction.
Well, let's move to what can only be described as the conventional domain, and that is the word brigade has already fallen. The famous German brigade, which is to arrive in Lithuania. I was lucky enough to be in Vilnius, I think it was in December, at the Eastern Europe Studies Center annual conference. And this was just before Boris Pistorius, the German defense minister, showed up to, I believe, sign what was an MOU, really the final step before implementation phase of the brigade. Can you update our viewers at home and our audience, not only what is the German brigade that has been decided and where things stand with Berlin?
I think it's a really historical breakthrough for Germany. I would say it's for Germany, it's a real example of Zeitenwende. But it's not only words, it's a real thing. You know, before the decision of full brigade in place, we had this discussion in Lithuania, do we need a rotational basis, like one brigade 6 months, another brigade 6 months, which rotate? I was proponent of that kind of approach. So for us, this kind of scenario already would be a big achievement for deterrence, as a deterrence factor. Others were saying, oh, it will be enough to get to Lithuania if intelligence indicators will be red light, will turn to the red, you know, for 10 days to come to Lithuania if it's needed. You know, we had the discussion. And of course, our approach won. And not only our approach won, Minister Pistorius was fantastic here. He decided not rotational model, but model in place. So it means with the families.
A permanent force.
A permanent force for 3-4 years. So then maybe some rotation. So it's a fantastic achievement. It's a big deterrence factor for us. And it's a forward defense concept in reality. Because we argued already in Madrid, when Vilnius summit, we need a forward defense. We need to be ready to fight on the line. Deterrence is cheaper than defense. So be ready to, on the eastern flank, much more forces with fast reinforcement, because this brigade, who will come to Lithuania, is a part of German division, which will be a part of NATO defense regional plans if it's needed. So everything is interconnected. So of course, with US presence, be sure, you know, Germany brigade is one thing, it's very important, but US presence, it's a crucial, vital thing for our region. You know, we have a battle group of United States in Pobrad, in our training area, which we are very happy, and we will do everything to be a good host nation. So it's complementary, should be complementary. Germans, Americans together, it's a good team, you know. So where we stand now. So decisions made. We achieved point of no return. The advanced team of a brigade is already in capital Vilnius. I met them in the airport. Now,
Did they look tough? Were you impressed?
Yeah. You should see their leader. You know, it's, fantastic. Another group of about 100 and more will come on October. So little by little, stage by stage, they will come. And the idea, the plan is 2027 to achieve the full operational phase of brigade in Lithuania. So Germany.
You're pleased with that timeline?
Because we should do homework, and Germany also should do the homework. They invest into the brigade. Mm-hmm. It will be a real combat-ready brigade.
Yeah.
With all enablers, with tanks, with everything what is needed for brigade. It's not only personal. It's also the equipment, everything. So we invest into that. We should showing what is a big, strong thing, iron twist, you know. And we also should make a homework, infrastructure, social and military. So one training area will be a military base for Germans, I know. We are building the accommodation capacity, you know, and it's also a quite big challenge for Lithuania. But we are doing a little step by step, and we connected. We are plans of deploying troops, you know. Next year, the battalions will start to come. In 26 also, you know, it's good what is stage by stage, step by step, and we'll be also ready to accommodate them, to be ready to host them. So, and I think, yeah, it's a point of no return already. And I think it's a good example for our eastern flank countries what we need to achieve. Because I hear it's like a reinforcement when it's needed, prepositioning. It's good, of course, it's very good, but sometimes when you have in place, it's a big credible deterrence factor.
So this, of course, after the Russian annexation of Crimea and occupation of Donbass, or movement into Donbass after 2014, the alliance decided on an enhanced forward presence in the Baltic states, now called Forward Land Forces, I believe. And after the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, that was upgraded by expanding both the multinational battle groups, but moving towards a full-scale brigade in Lithuania. Let's move to Ukraine, since I just raised it. From the view from Vilnius, give us a sense of the war in Ukraine.
My first visit was in Ukraine when I was appointed. Met Minister Bumerov and met also President Zelensky. You know, it was just before decision by United States. So mood, of course, was not optimistic. And the reality is not optimistic. We can talk a lot of things, but reality is so. But Russia is already preparing to assault, a new assault on Kharkiv, second city. Odessa is also a target. So I'm sure that the support, the package of United States will help to stabilize and to deter them to do that. So it's very good. Thank you, United States, for that. I hope it will be not the last package of the support. I think we should start to think, because it will help it to stabilize. It will help it to stabilize the situation. Maybe in some places even to break through, like maybe Crimea, for example. And it's good. We need to create the strategic dilemmas for Russia in Ukraine. And you can do it, I think. So we should think also in that kind of manner. Talking about, of course, the biggest challenge when you compare Russians and Ukraine capabilities, especially in mobilized reserve. You know, Russia, we don't care about people. We don't care about human lives. We have war stage economy. We produce now sometimes even more when we produced before the war. For example, it's on ammunition on 152. If before the war we produced per year 400,000 rounds, now we are producing 2.2 million rounds. So you see, we adopted, and we can do it despite the sanctions. and it's a headache, I think, for us. We should do things here much more. As I said, we don't care about the lives, so we can mobilize the people. We created so-called, I call it mercenary army. We pay some money for the lower strata people from periphery, bringing them to the war. And it also is, is an important thing. And for Ukraine, which is smaller than Russians, it's hard to keep the balance on mobilized reserve. So it's one thing. Of course, weaponry, firepower balance. So just before the package, it was 1 to 10, 1 to 8. So it's very difficult. Now it will be better. So thank you. But now we should think about what we will need to do later. Because now I hear sometimes here in America, look, so why we should support Ukraine? We cannot win. Sorry, I mean, if we will give them everything what we need, we can win, one thing. Another thing, it's, even pragmatical thing. Supporting Ukraine is containing Russia from our imperialistic moves in our regions. It's a very simple thing. Ukrainians asking not troops, they're asking good weapons and ammunition. And with their hands, you can stop Russians' aggression. So it's, if you do not want to send your troops, somewhere in NATO regions to defend the NATO when it's needed, so better way is to just support Ukrainians. So like a very pragmatical way of thinking, I would suppose, So I think we should go to this direction. I was in air defense, like a command control. We presented what is the need of air defense for Ukraine. And this need is, it shows how air defense are important and our capabilities inside of NATO. I'm not counting United States, but counting all European NATO pillar. This need is like what we have, so it's something like that. So it's a big challenge. So that's why at home, even when I was appointed, we turned a little bit balance of planning. First of all, we have a plan to create a tank battalion, and all enablers with air defense to push in 2030. Now it changed a little bit, synchronizing tank battalion together with more air defense. So we are investing now into air defenses because it's the biggest gap. Mm-hmm. Air defense is the biggest gap also in the NATO area. So that's why we need to reshake our thinking and to do a lot of things, especially in this domain.
One of my colleagues at Hudson, Chan Kasapalu, puts out a weekly military situation report, which I would commend to everyone, and he's been hitting the air defense issue for quite some time. And some of the other themes which you just hit on, the importance of putting pressure on the Russians in Crimea and resupply, the importance of manpower, the deficits the Ukrainians face there, mobilization. My colleague Luke Coffey, who's here today, has written quite a bit on this as well, and something we've tried to focus on at Hudson. Given the industrial-based needs of Ukraine, the West has tried to set up with this congressional package in the US, and Europe, as we all follow the Kyiv tracker, has tried to do its part as well. Yesterday, Secretary Blinken, I believe in Saudi Arabia at a World Economic Forum event, talked about the massive input of Chinese support for Russia's defense industrial base and ticked off a number of categories where the Russians are producing records amounts of missiles, tanks, et cetera. This has, I think, been a concerted American effort going back to Secretary Blinken's appearance in the NAC and the North Atlantic Council in Brussels, briefing out some of the intelligence on China's support for Russia in recent weeks or perhaps a month or so ago. How do you see the relationship between Beijing and Moscow, and how should we counteract China's apparent massive industrial support for Russia's war effort?
I think China understands, but at some point, of course, we will, hiding a little bit, but of course the support is for Russia overcoming of sanctions. It's quite obvious, and the question is it a strategic partnership? How the most important question, how you could recognize the relations between China and Russia? What does it mean? Strategic partnership, strategic alliance, or maybe higher competition because of different demographical situations. It's a question for 20, 30 years already, you know. But I think China have some red lines for nuclear things. We will not we will not be happy if Russia will cross it. But at the same time, we are very much interested in succeeding Russia in Ukraine, you know, because it's a testing for West, for our ability to help to Ukraine. If Russia goes further, you know, and we do not find the adequate tools to help to Ukrainians, you know, it will be a green light for even for Chinese in other Indo-Pacific region to do the same in the future. So it's interconnected. We do not want to let Russia lose. That's why we're supporting, and very interesting, at least on some tactical or more or less strategical Russian victories in European direction, showing, you know, what West as a community is not able to help to Ukraine. So this is, I think, where interconnection exists, and of course, you know, and the biggest challenge, especially in Europe, but you know, we still do not have the common strategy on China. If you look at our country, Lithuania, you know, probably our history, contemporary history, I was leading in parliament the process. We banned some Chinese company from 5G. We tried to get access to our ports several years ago. We banned. So we are quite resilient to Chinese investment. We do not let them to dominate in Lithuanian strategic assets, you know, and we are, I would say, sometimes even quite role model for others. Look, and when you remember, we opened the Taiwanese representation. Taiwanese representation is not an embassy, but it's like one of like I would say, interesting, strong decisions, and we were pressured very much by China, sanctioned our companies, pushed back from the market. Even the companies which had some chain of Lithuanian part in their chain, they also were, international companies, they also was harassed to get out from Lithuanian chain, you know. But we survived. We are okay, we are not damaged too much. I mean, we you know, showing it's possible to live in 21st century even without China, you know. So we are doing a lot of things, and of course we are trying to shape European policy. And here we are in one voice united with the United States. We are like working together here. And I think in different scenarios, when you will have like ideas on how to contain China influence, we will be on the same page. You know, absolutely. So China is a real factor for decades. If Russia is like a aggressive, declining regional power. But regional for us, it's still very, you know, can be very harsh because of what we are doing in Ukraine and other countries and nations. China is like, I would say, it's a much more bigger challenge for the future.
We've done a bit of a geopolitical tour to horizon. Let me return to the really core competency of the Ministry of Defense, and that is your national defense. Can you talk a little bit about your force structure, where you look to be making investments in the coming months and years? You easily meet the Wales summit threshold of 2% of GDP on defense and rising, and your predecessors, I think, have been praised in Washington, had good meetings because of this. You deserve praise as well, since you inherited that mantle and are now representing your country's Ministry of Defense. Can you talk a little bit about where you intend to invest, what kind of the strategic posture is of Lithuania?
Oh, thank you. It's a good question. It's an easy transfer. There's many great news from our country. So if you count from 2014, the defense spending increasement, so Lithuania is the highest in NATO. I mean, from 2014, we were quite low. It's about was a 1%. Now we have 2.82. My aim is to hit this year 2.9 and start the next year with a 3%. So now we are discussing on defense tax.
And sorry, just really quickly, and that does not include a lot of the infrastructure upgrades related to the German brigade arriving, like kindergartens and so forth? Or?
Kindergartens, it's not included.
Right.
Military infrastructure
Sure.
would be included, but because we are implementing the private-public partnership with the companies, so most of our costs for the German brigade will come in a decade or so. So it will be a long contracts, and so on. But it's good. It's good. You can, share the burden, So we increased, So even our government doubled in numbers the budget of defense. So it was on 1 billion, now more than 2 billion euros. So what we decided? We decided to create Lithuanian division, so 3 brigades. Of course, we are working on Iron Twist, which we call Iron Wolf Brigade, which is the most important brigade, which is interconnected with the Forward Enhanced Forces. And it is a big part of NATO defense planning. We dedicated all our forces to NATO planning. So in NATO regional plans, our division is already installed. So we are trying to create now a strong Iron Twist. So what we are doing? We have one air defense system, NASAMS middle range, which helps against helicopters, jets, cruise missiles. It's not working against the ballistical missiles. It's only Patriot working on it. But of course, for Patriot, for us, it's very hard to purchase because one Patriot system is 1.5 billion of euros since starting from, and our budget is 2 billion. So it should be a regional decision. But anyway, so we are concentrating on middle range and short range air defense systems. So we are working with NASAMS. It's a Norwegian company, and purchasing arms from United States. So the second system is coming, and I would like to jump in with a third one. So that's why I'm trying to achieve this year. So it's about air defense. Also purchasing the M-SHORAD system from Sweden, from Saab. First for the brigade, which already can hit the Russian heavy drones, because we need to work on it very hard on this new type of threats. And I will also try to double that capability in the nearest future. And of course, mechanization. So we're gonna establish the tank battalion step by step. Company, second company, third company. So we're gonna.
Bob Helm from General Dynamics is in the front row here, so he's listening very carefully.
So, yes, yes. But probably, it is a decision. It will be a Leopard. So it will be tanks. Will be Leopards.
He just got up to leave.
Yeah. When we finishing the first stage of became infantry fighting vehicles, which works with tanks. Yeah. Now we have a Boxers. It's a German also vehicle, which with the wheels. Now we decided that the one battalion will be tracked battalion. That's why we will finish the Boxers, and now we are looking for possibilities of tracked infantry fighting vehicles. So if you have some proposals, we are ready to hear it, because Bradley is, I think is a good thing. It's one of the options, could be, yeah. Also, our countries also have some air productions and alternatives, but here we can talk. Because it's already the funds in the budget, so it's already we can start to talk about the possibilities. Yes, of course, we are. If we can talk about what you are buying from United States already, GLTVs, HIMARS system, Javelins, Black Hawks. 20% of our procurement comes from United States. So it's about 1.5 billion euro in several years.
One of the, I'd even call them complaints I've gotten from visiting delegations buying American kit are the long lag times from intent to purchase to actual delivery. Is this, I'm judging by your actions, something you're concerned about as well?
It is not only about the United States. It's, of course,
right.
In Western world, a problem. You have a contract, you have money, you have funds. You sign the contract, it comes in 4 or 5 years. Right. And one German industrialist called what we sometimes manufacturing, not producing. So we should transform into the real producing. It's like one rocket, and so like Russians are doing. Maybe not so technologically sophisticated way, but we are, progressing very, very, very fast. So we, of course, should tackle this challenge. And of course, when I ask the industrialist, defense industry people, what you need, especially in Western Europe, we need the long-term contracts. It could be state contracts, it could be NATO contracts, multilateral contracts, because they're afraid of COVID situation, because everybody was saying, produce vaccines. They started, everybody produce, and now it's, would you like a vaccine or something? Where to put it, So, and this is a challenge and the biggest risk. Yeah.
Well, let's have a closing round on the Washington summit. You just hosted the last NATO summit. The United States is about to host the next one. Can you take us from Vilnius to Washington? So perhaps begin with the Vilnius summit and then what your hopes and expectations are for the Washington summit, and any secrets you'd like to divulge about where the communique negotiations stand. We're all amongst friends here. You're welcome to do that.
Of course, first of all, we should show the progress of executability of NATO regional defense plans. Because we started it, it's based on a good direction, it's based on forward defense, it's based on deterrence by denial instead of deterrence by punishment. Mm-hmm. So it's theoretically very good. But we need to fill the gaps. We need real forces integrated into the defense plans. So we are working on it and filling the gaps in different areas, like air defense, of course, long strike capabilities, and so on and so on. So it's one important thing, and we should do this in a good manner. And of course, air defense is, we have rotational Baltic air defense model,
right.
And that's why we need to fill the capabilities in this framework. And of course, we hope, I know, but it's not popular to talk, but I hope we will, in Washington, we will talk about Ukraine. We will talk about Ukraine, and we will find some solutions which will send the signals to Russia, what Russia do not have a veto power on NATO enlargement. So I hope the invitation, the Baltics will support the invitation, and we will support the discussions on invitation. So we should not forget Ukraine and move forward with NATO-Ukrainian relations.
Well, I'd like to go to questions, and on that note, I'm going to go to Luke Coffey first, because we're a think tank and we like to propose policies.
Sure.
And Luke, testifying in front of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, we repeated it in a recent monograph that he and I published, has a proposal for Ukraine's relationship with NATO, which I'm putting you on the spot to share now, but you can also ask whatever else you'd like.
I would be happy to share that. Thanks, Peter. But I had a separate question, so I'll try to be brief with both. So one thing Peter and I have been proposing is that at the upcoming NATO summit, the alliance extends an invitation for Ukraine to join, but with the final date of membership to be determined when all members agree that the security situation in the country is satisfactory. If the EU can start accession talks while also having a similar clause to Article 5, Article 42.7, then why can't NATO also start that formal process? So an invitation should be given with the final date to be determined in the future. My question, though, was about Kaliningrad. What, from your perch in the Ministry of Defense, how do you assess the Russian military presence there now more than 2 years after the large-scale invasion of Ukraine? Have many of these units been sent to Ukraine? Has the equipment been depleted? Or have the Russians protected their military presence in Kaliningrad? Thanks.
Thank you. I would say on Kaliningrad, if you look now, what we have inside, in personnel and equipment, is much more less than we had it before the war. So many troops and many equipment is sent to Ukraine, absolutely. But also we should be sure we can easily, in a very fast manner, reestablish forces, personnel, and reestablish the equipment too. So yes, my answer.
Dan Kochis, Senior Fellow at Hudson.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you very much for your remarks today. You can tell I'm new, right? The microphone. Oh, is that your fault? Well, I can ask this way. So one of the big issues within the alliance is force generation, and so every country, of course, has a different system. Some have conscription, some don't. Can you talk about your situation in terms of how you see future force generation within Lithuania, and if there was any change in the last 2 years in terms of how young people in the country are viewing military service as a career? Thank you.
Thank you so much. As you know, we reintroduced conscription in 2014 after Crimea, but it was not total or universal conscription. It was based on quotas for society, and it was not. It works. It lets us invite about 3,500 personnel per year as a conscripts. So you create a new active military reserve, and then you can integrate them into the army structure. But now on the parliament we have a reform, and I hope we have 2 months to finish it and starting it from the next year, January 1. So it's a move and one step forward to the universal conscription. Only for men, I mean, but we are trying to escape from some exemptions for students and so on, and to create a more path how you can be part of the army, you know, how you can contribute yourself, how you can pay your duty to Lithuania. So you can be a voluntary forces, you can be a traditional conscript. If your speciality is useful for army, you can make it in a shorter time. So we are creating out of path. It will create a possibility for us to invite 2,000 more conscripts. We are counting on that, and it will be push our active reserve. So we're moving towards that. Another thing, I came with a total defense concept. One of my first decisions was to create so-called commandant structure. It's territorial self-defense. It means, like in Ukraine, there is like a municipal local level, you create such kind of forces. It's a paramilitary more forces, you know, hunters, sometimes prepared reserve who served in the army long ago, patriotic people who can help, you know, functions of commandants. It is defending the infrastructure, bridges, main roads, fighting diversion groups, you know, block posts, commandant hours, you know, that kind of you know, like which you do not use the military personnel, you do not put the professional soldier into that. The society could help, and it's a good framework for people who wants to, you know, to contribute themselves. When they ask, where is my role? Where is my role? We're creating them a platform to engage with the defense. And it is a signal to I would say, to our adversaries in the East, but our society also will be ready, you know, to fight if it's needed. So it will be not only army, not only regular army, not only volunteers, but also our territorial self-defense forces. We expect about 20 to 30,000 people who will join with self-defense. So my idea is to create Lithuanian hedgehogs, which would be so strong, even for much more stronger Russian beer, be uncomfortable to try Lithuanian hedgehog. It's a concept of total defense. But because it's so interesting topic, last point, the problem is, but we should integrate this total defense concept into the NATO defense planning. And for Finland now, it's a big challenge because we have 950 active reservists with territorial defense, and you should integrate in all these, you know, brigades, divisions who could be part of defense planning. So we should somehow to solve this NATO defense planning, you know, and territorial defense in the countries. So it's a little bit dynamic thing, but we will manage it, I hope.
Interesting. We have time for just two more, Laura, and then we'll go to the back. Perhaps we could take them together just for time purposes.
Sure. Hi, I'm Laura Kelly. I cover foreign policy for The Hill. A few months ago, the heads of foreign affairs committees of Europe came to Washington with a warning saying that if the U.S. retreats from supporting Ukraine, Europe will not be able to help the U.S. in the event of a Chinese aggression against Taiwan. And so do you have any plans, or how can Lithuania help in the event of aggression against Taiwan?
You know,
then we'll
thank you. We can take, yeah.
Let's just take this second
Super,
one
super.
since we're short on time. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Stefanie Bolzen. I'm the Washington correspondent for German Welt. Thank you, Minister, for doing this event. Two related questions. The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz says the reason why he doesn't want to send long-range Taurus to Ukraine is the risk of those being misused, targeting Russian targets. Do you share this argument? And secondly, how much of a difference would the German Taurus make currently on the battlefield? Thank you.
Thank you. I was in this delegation of his foreign chairs. I was a defense chair, as I was like, we have very active foreign affairs chair.
Do you agree with yourself?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, sure. I mean, absolutely. We are ready. Lithuania is ready to be a role model, showing what you can survive without Chinese technologies. You can survive without Chinese tech investment, and so on and so on. It's not so easy. Many big European powers, once we talk about human rights, but sometimes a little bit have also, with another hand, the economy relations. So we always like reminding what is possible. Another model, another role model example, how to behave with that kind of. We are trying with our example, I would say so, and always keeping on the agenda the idea that you should be resilient against the communist China. As you know, we have very anti-communist DNA in our blood because of history. That's why we are doing that. On Taurus, yeah, I feel a little bit sometimes, but still in Germany there are such kind of separation of offensive and defensive weapons. I'm not a proponent of that kind of approach, but I feel a little bit. Look, because Taurus is no, but on air defense, look what Germany is doing. It's a fantastic job. I mean, when Ukraine asked, the first were giving a third Patriot system, and when we got all NATO defense ministers got the letter from Baerbock and Pistorius, common letter. It's the first time in history, I would say, asking for contribution to the air defense coalition, and we will contribute. Our will contribute. It's also like a breakthrough, icebreaker into air defense. So it's a little bit. Sometimes we concentrate what Germany is not doing, but do not forget. Sometimes forget what we are doing, and we are doing a great things sometimes. I mean, not sometimes. Great things doing in supporting Ukraine, especially, for example, in air defense. When you have 12 systems and 3 of them already in Ukraine, no, it's something. I mean, it's really substantial. So I'm not critical on Germany support. I think Germany really making a good thing. But yeah, still, sometimes it's about offensive, what you can touch or not touch, So, but I hope this package of US package will also maybe be a motivator factor for Germany to think once again about ours.
Will it make a difference on the battlefield?
It always makes a difference.
Well, Mr. Minister, it's been a delight to have you here. I just want to underscore how much Hudson appreciates its relationship with Lithuania. You have a wonderful ambassador, a great embassy team here in Washington, and you're in great hands with her here in D.C. and the entire team. We hope to have you back. Best of luck in your new post, and thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.